bit blown away when I found out I was a projector. It's explained a hell of a lot of things to me. I was always trying to fit myself into a square hole, and then you're not ever meant to be a square. You're meant to be a ball. And everything's made sense. So
welcome to the Human Design Projectors Society podcast. I'm Zed Harbor. Join me as we explore and dive deeply into the brilliance, the beauty, and the power of what it is to be a projector. And I am so excited to have you as a guest today on the Human Design Projectors Society podcast. Welcome, and please tell our viewers a little bit about you.
hi, thank you for having me. And I've been really excited about coming on and speaking about this. I think projectors really need some support. I know I did and still do. Yeah, it would be really lovely if this can help anybody out there. I came to human design quite late. I've only been really aware of it for the past 4 or 5 years, I think. I was a bit blown away when I found out I was a projector, and it's explained a hell of a lot of things to me. I was always trying to fit myself into a square hole, and then I found out, oh, actually, you're not ever meant to be a square. You're meant to be a ball. And everything's made sense. So yeah, I was on a big journey of working through my trauma. I had quite a lot of childhood trauma and I was working through that. And then I found human design just by somebody saying, hey, I think you could be like me. She said, do you mind me doing your charts? And she said, oh yeah, you're a projector. She said, I thought you were. And a lot of the things that I discovered about myself through my healing journey, everything that I'd started to discover that I thought I needed to change about myself, I thought a lot of the things were wrong and that I needed to change. All of a sudden I got told, no, that is who you are. So I really love human design because I come to a lot of the realizations prior to finding human design, and human design just gave me confirmation about what I'd learned. So I just thought, if everything I've already discovered is right, then I'm just going to go with whatever else it's telling me.
Awesome. Oh, that's so great. I can relate to your story. I'm sure many projectors have had similar experiences and feelings about it. And that's why the Human Design Projectors Society and podcast wanted to be born, right? It was this sense that, or an awareness that when we learn to see ourselves correctly, then what we radiate out into the world is going to have so much more clarity, and then the rest of the world will see us correctly as well. And that is our first step, right? Mm-hmm. To be recognized correctly. And we are destined to, in large part, our destiny as projectors is to fulfill the role of advisors who can guide mainly generators, because they are the most common type out in the world. And so when we know our true nature, our true role, and our true value, then it's like being a radio, right? The frequency we give out is going to have a very clear song instead of a lot of static of us trying to be all these different stations, right? All at once. So now we can really put out like a very clear, coherent signal song. And then the generators for whom our individual song is correct will hear it and go, oh, I want to listen to that station. Let me tune in even more. I do like to start by just sharing briefly my design to give you and anyone who's watching a sense of what my lenses are, where I'm coming from. And so number one, I like to make sure and mention that my motivation is color number 6, which is innocence. And therefore it is just absolutely critical that I not have an agenda. And I'm over 60. I have spent many years having agendas and desires, because desire is the transference. And that seems normal because a lot of the world has desires and agendas and all those sorts of things. What I have learned is that the best outcome for everyone involved is when I stay in alignment with my motivation. And that's true for all of us, but very specifically, Ra said that projectors' relationship to their motivation is key. The other element is that I'm a self-projected projector because I have the G to the throat, and then I have an additional activation in the ajna. So that's just a brief bit about my design to help people get a sense of where is she coming from? So now let's look at your chart. So what your chart shows us is that you are a split definition. And what that means is that you have this area of definition down here, right? You have the solar plexus and the ego center defined, also known as the heart or the will center. And then you have the splenic to the G to the throat to the ajna to the head. So all of these defined centers are connected without any interruption, right? But there is an interruption between these two being connected to the rest of your definition. So what we can see here is that potentially, and my mechanics shows us right here over on the right-hand side, under the term bridges, your bridging gates are 12, 44, and 21. So the 12 is here in the throat, and it would make the bridging gate for the 22. You've got the 21 down here in the ego and heart center, which would bridge the 45 to the ego center. And then the 44 comes from the splenic, and that would connect to the 26. So that would create the connection there. And so when someone is a split definition, what they can perhaps expect and what people do report is there are two sort of separate parts of their way of experiencing themselves in the world. And because your authority, which is your solar plexus, is separated from particularly your throat, which is the communication and manifestation, that can provide some challenges in terms of getting your emotional wisdom, right? That's the part of you that's here to make the decisions, out into the world in manifested form or expression of yourself. And so the other aspect is that your head and ajna, they do have a really nice, easy flow into the throat. So potentially you might find it very comfortable to have concepts and inspiration and ideas and things you learn from leaders. And you might find them that you're able to organize them in a particular way, and they may leap out of you in a pulse with this 4323. Right? They may just have these realizations that come out of nowhere, and you're saying them before you even know why you want to say them, maybe. So that's just a little bit about you having this split. Do you have any observations that you feel inspired to share?
Yes, that's definitely right about things just coming out of my mouth, especially when I'm with others. I just tend to say things that I think, who said that? Where did that come from? I really love that when that happens, because it surprises me as well as everybody else. But yes, being shut off from my emotions, I find it quite difficult to hear my body. So that's been a challenge in my life. And that's something that I'm trying really hard to work on, connecting to those emotions, connecting to my body to see if I can hear that a bit clearer, because that is very frustrating. I find it very frustrating because I know something's going on here, but I can't quite. It's almost as if I literally explained it to somebody the other day, that I said it's almost like the connection, somebody's pulled the connection cables apart, and I have to really push to get the message from one cable to the other because somebody's pulled them apart. So wow. I can get the answer, but it's like quite an effort.
That makes total sense. Just looking at your design, particularly because the definition that makes you an emotional authority is mostly unconscious. Because you can see on the left-hand side, you see the 37 is your unconscious Mars and the 40 is your unconscious Saturn. And so you do have the 40 activated consciously by your Saturn as well, but you've got that majority, right, of that connection being unconscious, as well as, you say, having the cable unplugged, because the 21 is not activated in your design. The 12 is not activated and the 44 is not activated. So you have a combination of elements there that really make it normal and natural for that to be a little bit of maybe a mystery for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tell me how that sounds or how that feels.
Yeah, I didn't really understand about the split in me, what that actually meant. So that makes complete sense. And yeah. the way I did describe it, that's exactly what you're saying there. And yeah, it just is quite frustrating. I find it quite frustrating because I know that I know it, but I don't consciously know it. Yeah, so it takes a while for it to come through.
Absolutely. As well, it should. First of all, just being an emotional authority, it takes time for the clarity to come for anyone with an emotional authority. What I've observed is that every projector who is an emotional authority has the split that is split off from the throat. Because if they didn't, if they had the emotional authority connected to the throat, that would automatically make them a manifester.
Okay.
So every projector who has emotional authority has this split that you're experiencing. Some have what's called a wide split, where it is at least a full channel, if not more, that separates, right? The two areas of definition. So what makes us projectors is not only that we don't have the sacral center defined, that means we're not a generator, but we're not a manifester because none of the motors are connected directly or indirectly to the throat. So your defined solar plexus and your defined heart center don't have direct, complete access to the throat, and therefore you are a split definition projector. So I don't know, to me, I'm still absorbing the interest that I have in that whole dynamic, that it is a built-in feature of being an emotional authority projector that you will always have a split where your motors do not connect to your throat. So you guys have some energy through your motors, but you don't have that manifesting capacity that manifestors do, or that a manifesting generator can have, right? But I don't want to sidetrack too far off of your design, but just to let you know that you're wholly normal for your design in what you're describing, and you are not alone. Okay.
Okay, that's good to know because again, I thought that was something that I needed to fix. This lack of connection there. I thought I needed to fix that, but maybe it's not to be fixed. Maybe it's just something for me to learn how to cultivate a deeper connection with.
I love that you're describing it that way. It isn't something for you to fix. It's, again, because our frustration or feelings that we're not good enough or that we're failing, that kind of thing, come from these ideas that this is broken, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, as a projector with emotional authority, it is not a bug, it is a feature that you do not have a direct flow, unimpeded flow from your motors, particularly your solar plexus, to your throat. So yes, when we recognize truly how we're made, it gives us permission to embody that without blame, judgment, shame, all those things, criticism. So one of the things I thought might be helpful today is to have a visual representation of the particular shape of the wave that you have, the emotional wave. In case you haven't ever seen it, it's in the book of the definitive book of Human Design. And on page 78, they show the 4 different wave forms that help describe the experience that someone with each of those waves might have. So in this case, it's this, they call it a ratcheting up because it builds in intensity until it gets to the top and then, right? And they even talk about it in terms of often or potentially ending in some sort of an emotional explosion. And because it is tribal, it's very much related to touch. And so touch is how the tension of this particular wave can be resolved.
Yes. And I often, when I get really emotional, the thing that I need is touch. I almost feel like a child needs to be held. That's almost what, if I have a big emotional response, that's what I need. I just need someone to hold me. So that makes complete sense.
How wonderful that you have that recognition, right? And now you have 100% permission, because that is the way for you to be supported in releasing your emotional tension.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, because sometimes I can feel the emotion building in me, and I sit there and I'm just like, what is this? What is this? I don't, and it, that in itself can feel quite frustrating because I can feel this emotion here
Mhm.
and just not understand what it is. And
Yes, makes
yeah,
total sense because your definition in the head to ajna is through, let me just back out of that for a second, is through the channel of abstraction. And they call it a design of mental activity mixed with clarity. However, the gate 64 is the gate of confusion. And so what it really wants most is to end the confusion. And what I hear you describing is like this confusion of where is this coming from? Why am I feeling, why is this tension building? And you see again here that the majority of your activations here are unconscious. So yeah, even though it's head and ajna, so it's like concepts and inspiration and of course confusion here, it's also about, I should be able to figure this out. I should be able to make this like
I have
logically make
I,
sense.
I have a strong sense in me. I should know this.
Yes.
I have I'm like, I do know this.
Yeah.
And then the frustration comes that, but I can't bring it into, I have this awareness that it's in my subconscious. It's this frustration where I can't bring it into my conscious thoughts because I know it. I know what it is, but I can't consciously bring it forth and
Look
feel.
at your activations. Your ajna are all three unconscious. And this is where we process the thoughts and realizations, the confusions, the doubts, try to come up with answers. And so while this channel is a collective abstract, meaning trying to make sense of things, particularly from the past, you have the 17 in your Mercury right over here. Mercury is all about communication, like I got to communicate this. And this particular gate is part of a logical, part of the logic circuit. So there is this feeling, or normally I would expect someone with this activation to be like, come on, this could be, we can make this, we can make sense of the confusion to get rid of it. And we can figure out a way to organize it so that we can express it and have a releasing of the tension, which would be totally normal. And of course, each person has their own experience of these things. Do you remember Dr. Dolittle, the story, the push me, pull you? It was a two-headed llama and they both wanted to go, one head wanted to go one direction.
Yeah, that's very much like me. I'm a Gemini as well, and I've always said I've always said I'm that split. Yeah, I do get the push pull me a lot.
Yeah, makes sense. Looking at your design. And as you hear and are recognized as what you're experiencing is actually completely normal for your design, does that shift, or if it shifts in any way, your ability to come to peace with yourself or recognize your own self, to recognize yourself?
Yeah, I think it's about learning how to utilize the strengths in my chart to help me navigate in the world. Because I think the way my design is, I'm a little bit not, I'm a little bit further out than some projectors, I think, because of the way that most of my stuff is unconscious and the emotional wave. The people get frustrated because I knew I didn't have a word for it, the emotional wave. I didn't have a word, but people would say, just go with your gut. And I've always said, no, I need time to process this. I've always known I've needed time to sit with a decision. And people they get very frustrated, or some people get very frustrated. Just give me I just want to know, just make a decision. And there can be a lot of shame around that. I've felt a lot of shame around that. And it's just, and now since I found out I was an emotional projector, I was like, yes, okay. And now I can stand a bit more firm in that process and not feel the shame around it and just say, I'm sorry, but that's the way I am. So it has helped a bit, but I think it makes a lot of sense what you're saying about the whole, I never really thought of it like that, about it being unconscious.
So you've got that portion of it unconscious, your emotional authority. Now that to me is huge, right? Because to have that unconscious, like how do I actually consciously access the part of me that knows what I'm supposed to do, right? So yeah, but to know that even though you've been accepting of the reality that you need time and you've been standing up for yourself, and well done you, right? More people will see that you as a role model for doing that. To know now that it's not even about making an excuse for yourself, right? You're not excusing anything that's just because it's you and it's different. I've heard the body graph described as the sheet music of the song that you are here to sing. And so this is your song. This is precisely the song you are here to sing. And when you do, you deliver your gift to the world with great beauty and perfection, right?
I think this is making sense as well, why I like to meditate and to sit and be quiet, because that allows some of it to come through.
Beautiful. Yeah, because you do have the 40 in the conscious definition as well, or the conscious activation by Saturn. So there is an element of consciousness here. And interestingly, gate 40 is called the gate of aloneness. It's the deliverance, the gate of aloneness. And so it doesn't surprise me that meditation is as being alone, right, with ourselves. It doesn't surprise me that by being alone with yourself, that you're able to bring through these unconscious awarenesses from the 37 and the unconscious 40 in the Saturn, so that your conscious 40 can go, oh, I know how to deliver this.
Yeah, I've realized my alone time is really important. I've realized, and I can feel now when I've been around a lot of people, all of a sudden I feel, right, I need to withdraw for a little bit of time now. And before I didn't really understand it, because I love being around people, I love socializing, and I just thought, what's going on here? Why all of a sudden do I want to be alone? And it was quite confusing to me to start with. But now I've realized, okay, I just need to be alone to regroup and to sit with myself, understand process what's happened or what's going on. And then I can go back out into the world with a bit more of an understanding, a bit more clarity. So I've learned that it doesn't have to be one or the other, but I need to just carve out that time. The time by being by myself is really important. I notice if I can't have that, I notice the difference now. And then I start getting sucked into other people's emotions, and it's almost as if my boundaries seem to disappear and I start merging into the other people. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So to retreat is my time to sit and just, I don't know, run a diagnostics in myself and just regather myself. And yeah.
And just if we look at the third line theme here, humility, and the subtitle there is a calculated mode in deliverance to avoid attracting the attention of negative forces. Again, Ra spoke mostly in poetry a lot of the time, so it can be a little challenging to really mentally know what his words mean. But when I hear your story, what I hear you doing is you're making a choice, a calculated mode of going into meditation to avoid attracting the attention of negative forces, right? Which is anything that pulls you away from your absolute truth, your authentic truth, right? So yeah, beautiful. Absolutely. The gate 40, it is a very important gate in terms of honor its need to be alone, to not be available to the tribe, to the community. Because the whole channel is the channel of community, and it's a design of a part seeking a whole. And again, it's in your personality and design Saturn and your design Mars. So on one hand, it's far out in terms of where the planets are. Mars is inner planet, but it's not maybe going to be as obvious as what you bring through your sun and your earth. However, it is so essential for defining your authority that it's really well worth spending the time to just sit with the reality that there is a very essential elemental part of you that really wants to be a part of a community, of a tribe, of a family, and to deliver on behalf of that tribe and show appreciation also for those who deliver for you, right? The 37, the gate of friendship, the family, appreciation of the value right? That's how you can extend friendships, by appreciating its value. Sometimes you might even find that the need for diversity, that despite appreciation. So you might prefer casual friendships as opposed to having this really intense tribal connection. So those are just a few little elements of what makes you an emotional authority. Very powerful element of who you are. So one of the things I'd love to hear from you is your experience of our strategy of waiting for recognition and invitation. If you have any observations or feel inspired to share.
I can share on that. I think it's such a big topic, isn't it, for projectors? I haven't spoken to loads of other projectors, but on the Facebook groups and things, everybody's got such a different sort of definition about that. And some are very rigid in their definition of what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find it quite interesting reading how others interpret that. But yeah, we can talk about that. That's great.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of confusion, a lot of misunderstanding, and a lot of misinformation about what it really means. And I believe in part that's because so many people have been sort of trained or taught to ignore the first part, which is wait for recognition. Most people just say, oh, you have to wait for an invitation. And that misses a huge sort of piece of the strategy that is correct. And also, what I hear left off a lot is that the waiting for the invitation is for really mostly four main areas. It's for who to love, who to bond with, what career to have, and where to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we first learn about it, I know myself, I thought, oh my gosh, now do I have to be invited to eat breakfast? Do I need to be invited to like go to the grocery store or whatever? And it's so utterly different than that sort of very generalized, very broad brush kind of thing that you find mostly on Facebook and other internet places. So what, if anything, that you feel inspired to share about what is waiting for recognition? How has that shown up for you?
Yes. So the invitation bit, I think, as you were saying, the invitation bit to me hasn't felt as important as the recognition bit.
Mm-hmm.
I read energy quite well. And to me, I can feel when you've been energetically invited and when the energy has stopped inviting you. So for me, I don't always need a verbal invitation. I can feel if I've been invited or if I haven't. But the recognition, that was a big thing. And that's still something that I'm playing with or experimenting with, as we should be. It's an experiment, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Our lives are a big experiment. And it's really, for example, I go on a morning walk every morning and I do a barefoot walk. So I go to certain places and I do barefoot walking. And it's really interesting that I've been noticing some people just really don't want to come near me. They think I'm probably very weird because I don't have my shoes on. And then other people are and I do a little meditation sometimes and just stand and just am still and connect with the earth. Some people are just so drawn to you. They just see you and they're just so drawn. And it's really interesting. It's either one or the other. People are almost repelled by me or they're drawn in. I would literally be standing there meditating. They say, I know you're meditating, and they just want to really engage. And that's been a very interesting time that I've really been able to notice that, because obviously on the day to day, you're busy, aren't you? And you don't notice it as much. So that's been really interesting. And then I did allow a lot of the people in my life that hadn't been recognizing me to drift away. So I made a conscious decision that I looked at the relationships in my life and I realized that a lot of them weren't working. And that's because they didn't see me. They didn't really see me. They didn't really recognize me. They might have recognized things that I could offer them, which they liked, but they didn't fully see me. So the relationship was very unbalanced. Then that caused bitterness because, of course, it was more of a take, and I wasn't getting anything back. And of course, then if I tried to initiate anything, it was always doors shut in my face. No, we're not available for you. And then, so this recognition and invitation, I was like, oh, okay, yes. So I've been playing with that quite a lot. And I did let a lot of people fall away. And even though I thought if I end up with no one, that's going to be better than having these relationships that aren't actually really serving me. They're not building me up or they're not making me feel good. So I made a conscious decision. And it's interesting, it's been a slow process, but the more I'm coming into balance or in alignment with my chart or my experiment, new people are starting to move in that are a lot more, it's a lot more balanced, the relationships, because I'm only now initiating with people that actually recognize me and that have invited me in. So it's been, yeah, but it's been a slow process to do that, because obviously not everybody recognizes you and not everybody fully sees you. And I've had a couple of people that I feel they say they see me, but actually, when I sit with it and think, what are they saying? What are they actually saying? What are they seeing in me? And then I realize that they don't. Yet again, it's them just seeing something they like in me that they want rather than them actually seeing me. So it's been really good to have that bit of, to be able to realize who is for me and who isn't for me. And it's still an ongoing, I'm not perfect at this. It's still an ongoing process, but the relationships I've got now are so much more balanced, and I just feel so much more fulfilled by those relationships. Even though I've got less people, I feel so much more fulfilled, and I'm starting to feel more seen. Yeah, which feels good.
100%. This is something Ra said, that he even felt uncomfortable teaching, particularly to projectors, that it really, the most important thing for us is who we are with. Because the person or the people we are with will either support us in staying in alignment with our motivation, or they will pull us into transference. And so you really described it beautifully. People recognize and invite us all the time, but that doesn't mean they're good for us. And to be able to discern the difference is such a challenge. So the next thing we'll look at is your motivation and see what you're noticing about that. But well done you, because that was one of the pieces that Ra felt was going to be the most challenging, is how do you end relationships that are draining your life force, that are keeping you in a state where you aren't being able to live authentically as your true self, according to your design. That's a real challenge. Thanks for sharing your story about that, because I think a lot of us need to know what waits on the other side, that it's worth it to liberate yourself from incorrect relationships, because
Yeah,
the quality you've described is much better than the quantity, right?
and it was scary. It was a scary thing to let, because it was almost as if some bad relationships are better than no relationships. So it was but I just knew, I just got to the point where I thought, no, something's got to change. And I think the more I'm coming into alignment with my chart, my experiment, the more people that are starting to come in. So it's one of those cycles, isn't it? You need some people in to come in to help lift you, but then you need to start flowing in your experiment more, and then more people will start recognizing you. So it
Absolutely.
is, yeah, I think of it like a little bit of a steam train, but it starts off really slowly, and then I think it will just build and build.
Beautiful. Yes. So let me pull up your chart again, because I would love to take a look at your motivation, which is fear. So it is a first line motivation. People with the first line fear motivation are very interested in getting all the details about what's really important here for survival. Like, what are the essentials here? And to have a quality of really awareness, situational awareness and people awareness about, is this going to help me live and survive? Is this going to keep me alive? Or is this like going to be bad for me. And first line has an energy of just wanting a secure foundation, investigating, and all those sorts of things. So for you, what Ra describes for projectors is we, like you and I are saying, we get recognized and invited all the time, right? It's how do I know which ones are going to nourish my life force and which ones are going to drain my life force? That's where our motivation comes in. In the case of someone with a fear motivation like yourself, then you would see who supports you in staying really attuned to what's going on around me, and is this going to increase survival, as opposed to the transference, which is need, which is what do I need to do to make this happen? And so someone with a need motivation, it's not the same experience as someone who has fear motivation and transfers to need. So I don't want to mislead anybody out there who has a need motivation. We'll talk about that in another video. But if you have the fear motivation and you transfer to need, it's an unhealthy focus on the idea of, oh gosh, what do I need to do? Rather than what are all the good things here that I want to gather and put in my basket that are going to enliven me, right? Do you have any observations about bitterness you feel inspired to share?
I found that was a difficult word when I first heard it, bitterness, because you think, oh, bitterness. And I thought, I'm not bitter. And then, of course, the more you start looking at experiences in your life and you think, yeah, I think the main one, no, I think it's just genuinely not being seen. I think at work, relationships and work is where I found the biggest issues, especially at work. I know I'm not, at the moment, I'm not in the right place work-wise or in the right career, actually. And I used to get really bitter because I would be in a meeting, I would say something, projectors, I have a mountain perspective as well. So I'm really good at just sitting back, seeing the whole picture, and then I'll suggest something and I just won't be heard. I won't be heard. I won't be seen. It's as if I'm not even there. And then literally 2 minutes later, somebody else will say the same thing. And everybody's going, oh my God, that's the best idea. That's the best thing since sliced bread. And yeah, I used to feel really bitter because it's hurtful as well. It's heartbreaking when you feel as if you're invisible. And it happens in relationships as well. Yeah, you can, if you're engaging with the wrong people, you're just not seen and you're not heard. And I think for projectors, that's a big one. It certainly is for me. Whereas now in my work, I know I'm not in the right place at the moment, but I accept that now. And I just accept that I'm not going to be seen. I'm not going to necessarily be seen correctly because I'm not in the correct environment. So it's made it a lot easier because I just now am accepting and think at the moment this is paying the bills. And until I'm in the correct place, until I'm able to move into the correct place, this is what it is. So it's allowed me to relax a bit more and just be so much more accepting, which then allows the flow of life to happen a lot more easier. Yeah, there was a lot of bitterness. I must admit, at the start, I thought, I'm not bitter. That's not me.
Me too. I was like, I'm not a bitter person. What are you talking about? I'm never bitter.
Yeah.
And I had this very similar journey that you're describing, which is it just slowly dawned on me.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I've been covertly bitter. I've been camouflaging my bitterness. Yes, I hear my own story. Thank you for sharing that. And part of also what you shared really brings to light your profile as a 4-6, because that 6, that unconscious 6-line energy is very much capable of getting up above the treetops there and getting the very objective, wide, expansive view and coming from a place of wisdom. And particularly for the 6th line, from birth to around 30, it's all trial and error, bumping into everything and seeing what doesn't work, making bonds and breaking bonds. And then from approximately 30 to approximately 50, it's what they call roof time, which is sitting back and going, what just happened? What does it all mean? And then around it could sometimes be 47, 48, but somewhere between approximately 50 and beyond is the third phase, which is that really having the capacity to step into your identity as a role model who is here to say, look, this is what I can share based on my early experimentation, trial and error, and then my time of stepping back and synthesizing and integrating and really even digesting my experiences so that I have some wisdom to share. So that would emerge from you fairly unconsciously. And then your fourth line is really very much like, who can I be in a network with? Who can I connect with? How can I make connections in the world with other people that enliven us all? So I'd be curious to hear if any of that inspires any observations for you.
Yeah, definitely. The sixth line, the fourth line, I'm not as connected to the fourth line so much. I've not really explored that. The sixth line, I feel it really strongly, especially say the last 10 years. So I turned 45. I've only just turned 45. And the last 10 years, definitely, it's been hibernating, working through all my trauma, training in certain things, helped me on my journey. I've literally been on this whole journey of discovery, and I've been getting so much knowledge, gathering so much knowledge, and I can feel that I'm starting to come out of this cocoon, this hermit mode now, and I can feel myself just starting to emerge, and I can just feel that building now. It's really, so I feel the sixth line really strongly, actually. I've been, playing that out completely. And now I'm turning 45, and I can really feel, I haven't quite grasped what it is yet that I'm going to be imparting to the world, but I describe it as, I think this might be to do with my unconscious side as well, but it's almost as if I can feel the thoughts almost as if they're on the outside of my aura, and I can sense it. This is how I describe it anyway. For me, I can sense things here, and I feel it. It's almost like that I can almost grab them, but not quite. But I can feel them slowly coming in and coming in.
That is so exciting. Oh, what a beautiful description. Yeah, that's really exciting. And it so really aligns.
I can feel it all sitting here at the moment. And I know it's getting closer. I can feel it getting closer and closer. So
love it. Yeah. That's really cool. Really cool. Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So we're at time. We're actually a couple minutes over. Are you okay if we just use a last, say, 5 to 10 minutes to wrap up? Or okay. Yeah, sure. My intention, my mental thought was like, oh, these will be 30-minute discussion. No, never.
Well, there's just so much you can talk about, isn't there? There's just so much.
No, and we didn't. I was prepared to dive into your sun and earth, which I would love to do. One of the things that seems to be emerging just in terms of what's coming through is that depending on how you feel after this recording and the editing and then the posting, I would love to invite you back to dive more deeply, because we do barely get down into it's like, oh, there's so much richness. So just know that you will be completely at choice to accept that invitation to be a guest again. And we can start right off with like your sun and earth and moon, because I was looking at them and there's such exciting stuff there.
Oh, really? You know? Yeah. Because it's so interesting for me doing this, but it came up about me needing to be seen. I think I said this to you, didn't I, before? It come up, and then your invite showed up, and I thought, I really want to be of service a little bit more for other people as well. So I just thought, this is great, because, I know how confused I was when I first found out I was a projector. And there didn't seem to be, I couldn't find a lot of stuff on projectors. And so I just wanted to do this as well, because I just wanted to, it's good for me to be seen and to just be like, this is me. I'm okay being me. So it's good
Yes.
therapy for me, but I also feel that it's great because if it helps other people, then it's fantastic.
Yes, and it's part of our design as projectors to really just be more curious about the other than it doesn't mean we aren't curious about ourselves, but we're more curious about the other. And as we exchange our awarenesses and sensory responses and emotional responses and realizations and whatnot together here, the other projectors who watch, they discover themselves through observing what we talk about. And as you are recognized, I am here to recognize you as you truly are and to truly celebrate the beauty and brilliance of your unique design as for each of us, that supports you in being more fully recognized. And that as you make your discoveries of yourself, then you self-recognize, which that's not really a term I've read for projectors per se, but as a self-projected projector, I feel like it's an essential ingredient for me to self-recognize. And so I don't think it's incorrect for projectors to self-recognize, but I just think we're so interested in other people and we're really designed, obviously, with that aura to probe that focused and absorbing aura to really get into other people's energy field and explore them and show them more of who they can be, that we get to advise and guide in that way. So I feel like this is a wonderful platform for us as projectors to do that beautiful thing we do, which is to focus and absorb the other, as you and I are doing right now, and as other people will do when they watch it, right? And in that way, we create more enlivenment in the world.
I know for me, I know that I've got some really great gifts to
Mhm.
offer, but I feel I know everybody is complicated, but I feel like I'm like a little bit super complicated. As in, and I just knew that I've got to figure out me because as soon as I figure out me and how I can show up best, then I know I'm going to be able to really help others because that's all I want to do is help others. And I know I can do that, but I need to work out myself first to be able to, basically.
Yes. What your actual, pure, beautiful, coherent, harmonic song is. And when you sing that, that's when you're delivering your gifts to the world, right?
Yeah,
I know, it's so exciting. So
I
exciting.
know.